Great events create great brands, and it takes a village to put on an event that engages, excites, and connects audiences to your brand. And we're that village. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Paulina.
And I'm Rachel.
And you're listening to Great Events, the podcast for all people interested in events and marketing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Great Events podcast. We're going to talk about what's been going on in this wide world of events. I think you guys know me by now. My name is Alyssa, and I will be your sole host for today's Great Events podcast. Today, I am joined by a special Cventer on our stellar product marketing team here at Cvent. You may have heard her voice before. She's now becoming somewhat of a recurring character of sorts for this podcast, so hopefully we have her again. But I am joined by Cventer Bartelt. She is a team lead on our product marketing team here at Cvent. Hey, Cventer, how's it going?
Good. Happy to be back.
Yay! Yeah, so Cventer is alluding to the fact that she was just in Boston last week. She was attending quite a major conference. Can you tell everybody where you were at, Cventer?
Yeah, I was in Boston for HubSpot's conference INBOUND that they do every year. So this was the first time they were back in person. Awesome to be there. Awesome energy. Really great event.
Awesome. I've never been to that one, but it's this big conference for the marketers specifically. So anybody who is a traditional marketer like me or a traditional marketer like Cventer on the call may have heard of Inbound before. So I think, Cventer, keep me honest, that event is what, like 10,000 people in person that were with you approximately?
Yeah, so great turnout this year as a return to in-person. Definitely like a marketer's dream conference. I mean, it was put on by marketers for marketers. So as kind of a marketing nerd, it was really like felt the sense of community and like home amongst all 10,000 people on the ground there.
People. I heard. I actually also spoke at this event. So like, I'm playing it coy here, but I also was a participant in this event. I spoke, but to the virtual audience. So the HubSpot team, HubSpot is the technology that puts on the Inbound conference. So you guys may hear us using those interchangeably today. But I think we had about 25,000 individuals on the virtual side of the house. So the Inbound group had an amazing virtual platform. They had tons of interactive features. I was able to leverage a lot of those. Coincidentally, the conversation that myself and a different colleague had was related to engaging in virtual environments. So it was really nice to be able to activate the audience, who I think we had maybe around 1,000 participants at the peak during our stream. But it was really cool to feel the energy from a hybrid event that we know is just such a highly coveted brand within the marketing space. So being able to engage and ask questions and chat with the audience in real time was really great when you have that large of a number. I know that I've been guilty of saying over I want to say maybe the last 6 weeks, maybe the last 2 months, that, I don't know if hybrid is really going to be the thing, right? Like, is this really where our industry is going? I've had my internally just kind of doubts around this as a kind of way forward into this new era of events. But I think the Inbound conference really changed my mind on that. I really felt like this was hybrid success and really was a testament to how and when and where in your, let's say, your total program mix, hybrid really fits. And it is in that kind of large marquee conference. I don't know if you felt those digital or virtual elements, if you can testify to the hybrid experience at all too, Cventer, or if you really felt kind of more isolated to the in-person piece.
I think one thing that HubSpot does really well is create that sense of like community and following and engagement. And that was what I think their entire purpose and goal of the event was, right? Beyond, obviously education and product adoption and sales, but they really want people to feel a part of the movement, right? So I think, in-person virtual, their level of engagement and interaction is just on such a different level because they focus on, I would say, the right things for an event, and they do it really well.
What are some of those things that you noted that really fostered that sense of community? Because I felt it even on the virtual side. Just one of the pieces was just sounds simple, but their branding is phenomenal. Every little element, even the studio that I had to log in as a virtual presenter, which was this kind of third-party platform that I had logged into. had a welcome environment that said, welcome to Inbound, speakers at the ready type stuff. So even that was branded. You just felt like this very cohesive experience, but that branding really lends itself to the feeling of community, both in a virtual environment and on site too. So I'm curious what else you saw on site, Carissa.
Oh, definitely. I think they just like go all in on the branding. I mean, we were surrounded with it and like hit in the face with it at every single second of the day. I mean, there were giant brand installations and photo opportunities of logos, lights, elements, and bits and pieces of like their show artwork. I mean, shapes laying all around, and you turn around and you walk into a giant HubSpot, tall, 2 stories tall,
Yeah.
giant letters and lights. And so I think they just do such a good job of making it feel like a vibe. Like I'm there
Yeah.
and I'm so proud. And especially in the marketing community, like we eat that up. Like we love it.
Well, and it's funny. It's like I talk about this all the time. It's like knowing your audience. And this is a conference for marketers. So marketers really crave that cool factor, that like vibe, as you would say. But that is the vibe that you're trying to create for that type of community. So there is this like shared experience that everyone has, and it's done through the cohesion of those branding elements, through those kind of brand activations that are not only just relegated to the in-person environment now, but we're also seeing that type of activation happening in virtual too. So it's this extension of community now into digital spaces too, which I think is really interesting and was not always the case for this conference. They may have streamed out some of their sessions, but I don't think they've ever had such a robust digital experience that was kind of part of the conference brand itself. So I think this whole conversation around community is just fascinating to me.
Well, and they know that the audience of the people that go to HubSpot are tech savvy, right? They love being online, whether it's through the digital platform, through social media networks, I mean, the photo ops, the chat rooms, the like connecting networking aspect, they just really leaned hard into. And it really worked for them.
I think one of the other kind of really interesting things, I know we'll probably be talking about this in a few weeks here as Dreamforce is on the horizon at the end of the month of September, is the speaker budget that Inbound has. I think it's pretty massive comparatively to our own conference. I know that we have a large budget compared to some of our customers' budgets. So I know that former President Obama was one of their speakers. I don't know who else was on there. Did you get to see anybody?
Yeah, Viola Davis, Dr. Jane Goodall. I mean, it was an all-star lineup. It was really, really cool.
It's just really fascinating to see the money that's being put back into the event experiences after having, I don't want to say saved for a handful of years, but kind of had to do the P word, the pivot word for the last couple of years. I think this was the first time that Inbound has been back, and you could tell that they were really investing in the experience across all of those spaces.
They were, and investing in in their attendees. I would say, like they wanted people to get something out of it above and beyond just, using their stuff, right?
Yeah, it's not just a massive sales pitch for HubSpot, right? It is this fostering of community, and they do that through great content, things that you couldn't get elsewhere, like getting to see Jane Goodall speak. Like that's pretty amazing. I think it's just how do they activate that community in these moments of live, and these moments that are kind of FOMO worthy, if you will. So
FOMO, that's a great statement for how I would describe their kind of approach.
just instill that spirit.
Yeah, the spirit of FOMO. But they went above and beyond, and I feel like made people try to feel like purposeful, like bigger than their own, whatever role or project.
Marketing operations or demand marketing.
Right, right, right. It was like you're listening to these speakers about like global issues and how to make the world a better place and community, not even like just in your own community, but how to expand beyond that, and like lots of bigger purpose stuff, like really making the individual like attending feel like empowered to be like, I can do it. I can, I'm going to make a difference today, regardless of what scale and scope. You just felt like that energy.
Yeah, no, I think that's really big because we oftentimes just kind of put the blinders on, whether it's we're selling products or we're fundraising for an event or whatever the objective is of your organization or your association, you're trying to increase membership. I think we often think of our own objectives, but then you've got to think about what is the bigger takeaway for the audience to really get them to rally and come to these types of experiences. And oftentimes it's personal to them, right? And so offering these types of course, Obama is going to be a massive budget buster, but even if it's smaller, somebody that's kind of more relevant to your industry, but even more so relevant to your audience. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be so related to your business. It can be tangentially themed, could be related to, I don't know, female empowerment or diversity and inclusion, or these bigger kind of macro trends that we're seeing across all industries. I think there's relevancy within your own events to create a compelling experience and to, again, foster that notion of community, that we are a part of something bigger than just marketing technology, right? Like we're kind of these representatives of the human race at the end of the day, which is kind of cool.
I think, people that were there and that I talked to, it's giving them an energy to not only like have a great time on site, but also like you leave and you feel energized and empowered and you're like, I'm going to start my week next week and I'm going to make things happen. And I feel like I've got this support and this team and this energy behind me to do something.
Do it all. Yeah, to act, to do something. Yeah.
Right. And especially because when you have 10,000 people in person and then such a big virtual audience, right? Like everybody is going to come out of there with different goals. HubSpot has different goals for what they wanted every attendee to take away, but you're giving them that feeling and passion to accomplish whatever it is they came there to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting to like start every event as an event professional, as an event producer, as an experience maker for all of those who listen to this, kind of setting your sights and your North Star mission on the emotion that you want your audience to have when they leave, whether that's peaceful or calm or meditative or like learned, like they were instructed, like they just were informed of something, or what HubSpot and the inbound team really wanted the audience to leave with was action. They wanted them to leave motivated and inspired and ready to move. And I think it's really interesting because we so often at Cvent we talk about the qualitative, how we quantify success, how we really get down into details on the metrics related to events. But we don't always talk about the emotional side of things too, which I think is equally as important, especially when you're talking in terms of the audience and their satisfaction and their sentiment too. So there's an interesting balance between data and also emotion. So left brain, right brain conversations. Okay, Carissa, the second half of this conversation, I would love to kind of shift gears and talk about, you were there on site, you consumed some content. I'm sure you met with some customers or, users of MarTech in general. So I'm really curious to hear your perspective on kind of what's trending. What were like the big takeaways, big bets, kind of what's everybody been talking about in the world of marketing and technology and not just events, but this bigger, MarTech space that Cvent plays a part in?
Yeah. I think, above and beyond, community was obviously their big driving force, and it was all growing together, growing better together, growing purposefully together. And I think it's centered around working smarter, not harder, finding ways to be agile, finding ways to be smart about the way that you scale your teams, you scale your stack, you scale your goals, your strategy, your initiative, being really purposeful with your marketing and also like very genuine. Because when you are spread so thin, and we heard it a lot on the ground, like, oh, I have a smaller team now, or my team hasn't changed size and I have more tactics than ever and more things than ever to kind of cover, right? So how do I just get past blocking and tackling and really be smart about it and make a difference and react quickly, but be intelligent about how we are managing our time, right? It was all about, let's go to market quickly, let's go to market quick, let's react to things that we're seeing, and how do we do that, and what are the tools that will help us do that and not at the end of the day take more
time away from us executing our strategy, right? Like what truly aligns to our mission, which is really interesting because, shameless plug, this was a previous episode that Carissa was on the Great Events podcast, was with Daryl Alfonso. He's the head of marketing operations for AWS, Amazon Web Services, for those of you who aren't familiar. And we had that very conversation. So it seems like what's being discussed both at the attendee level and by some of the thought leadership at Inbound is very much aligned to what he's preaching to the market as well. So if you are curious, I would do plug to go listen to that episode following this one, because it's very, very timely for, what's coming into 2023. It's just getting more strategic, more calculated about the technology choices and the investments that we're making in this space. So anything else, Carissa? Any other parting words on Inbound or HubSpot?
Just do it. I think as event marketers out there, figure out how you want people to feel, figure out what you want to do, and just don't shy away from it, right? Whatever that emotion is you want to evoke, just go all in. I think the biggest missed opportunity is being too cautious when it comes to your own individual goals of like how you want people to experience and take away your event, and just kind of keep that your true North Star, and like let that guide all of the choices you make, from your food and beverage, from your art and creative on site, from your session topics, how you name your things, just like really like live and breathe that event emotion. Well, Alyssa, thanks so much for having me. I'm happy now that I seem to be hopefully a Cvent podcast, at least semi-occurring regular. But this was such a great chat. Love talking about Inbound last week. We hope that all of you enjoyed our talk today and found some inspiration to take that can inspire your own programs as you work towards being more innovative and exciting and purposeful kind of on site with your events. So as always, we want to know what's going on with all of you. Send us a LinkedIn message, message us on Instagram, send us a note at greatevents@cvent.com, because we want to feature you in an upcoming episode. I'm Carissa, and thank you for tuning in to Great Events.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Great Events, a podcast by Cvent. If you want more resources on how to make your events great, go to community.cvent.com. That's community.cvent.com. Or if you've got a question for us or just want to say hi, email us at greatevents@cvent.com.